BLUF Gaming here with a quick tutorial on how to level up your strength very quickly in Kenshi. Both of these guys started with extremely low strength. One of them started with a 1 strength, the other one started with a 8 strength, and now they are at 40 and 41. This is after only 2 fights, and they are already up to 40 strength, and you can use this method to go all the way up to 80 plus strength, assuming you have the right materials. The general idea is that you use martial arts, so no weapon at all, and a lot of heavy stuff in their inventory. I'm using iron clubs, which are very easy to make at a weaponsmith. So just make the highest level iron clubs you can, fill up the inventory, and tell them to fight. You can fight regular enemies outside, or if you want a more controlled environment, you can get some prisoners and fight the prisoners while encumbered. Ignore the strength combat rate that you see down at the bottom here. We're only looking at the strength XP rate for walking, even though we're doing combat to level our strength. You want to weigh people down until that strength XP rate for walking is up to 25%, which is the max you can get to without carrying someone, and then just putting them in a fist fight with somebody. Make sure they're well armored so they'll fight for a while, and if you want, make sure your opponent is well armored as well so you can get more punches in, because it's the number of punches that count. Again, all you need are people, heavy items, and targets. The best heavy item out there are generator cores, which you can occasionally buy at a mechanical shop, but are far easier to find in ruins and workshops and such. So using generator cores, if you have them, you can easily level up your strength to 80 or higher in just a short amount of time. Again, these guys, only 2 fights, went from essentially no strength to 40, and another 2 fights would easily bring them up just shy of 60. So if you want to see this in more detail, just stick around. I'll be going through all of it step by step after the cut. Alright, if we're going to train up strength, we're going to need 3 things. We're going to need people to train, we're going to need opponents to train them with, and we're also going to need some heavy objects that they can carry. So I've already gotten some heavy objects. Now I know what you might be thinking. I said starting from scratch. So as you can see, I only have these 3 people, and if you want to know how I got to day 27 with these things right here intact, you can watch my money tutorial where I actually go to day 15. This is the same run. So I go to day 15 and show how to make a good bit of money. If you're wondering why I don't have more money, it's because I've been setting up less profitable things like gear for these 3 guys, gear for 2 guys that I'm about to hire, and I've only recently gotten back into making money. So first things first, let's make sure we have people to train. What I want to do, instead of using one of the 3 people I've already hired, I just want to get some regular cheap guys starting fresh, preferably $3,000 guys, because they should have 1s in their stats. So I'm just going to go to the bar here and look for somebody to hire. This Vashu person might do it. 6,000, you know what, why not? Just to save some time. Yeah, sure, that looks good. Let's see what his stats are like. Perfect. 0 strength, 1 toughness and dex, and 0s and 1s in these stats. You couldn't ask for a worse combatant. Which is good, because we're showing how to level someone's strength up from nothing, basically. Why did he cost 6,000 though? Looks like he's a good cook. Alright. No biggie, I didn't need a cook. But, you know, whatever. He's the perfect candidate. I'm going to send him over here. And then with, who was I hiring with? Zumi. With Zumi, I'm going to look for somebody else to hire. Let's see, anybody else? Who's this? Peace. You want 6,000? Okay, sure. Peace is a she. And Peace has 8 strength, 1 toughness, 8 dex. Has some skills here, but you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and stick with it. and we'll be using martial arts anyway, so it's not like she's going to have a huge advantage, just going to have the dex and strength advantage, but it's not that big of a difference. So let's send everybody back over here, and now we have people, and we're just going to be training strength in Vashu and peace. So that's one of the three things we need. The next thing we need some heavy objects. So the best heavy objects are generator cores. They're not easy to come by. I have one right here. You see it's a 3x2 object, and it weighs 20 kilograms. That's pretty heavy. That's almost 7 kilograms per individual square. Now I got that one from this machinist shop right here, mechanical shop, and mechanical shops have them occasionally. It's not a common item there, but so far as I know, that's the only place that you can actually buy them. But you can find quite a bit of them in the old workshops and ruins and things like that, where you have a chance of finding different types of artifacts. So that's where you'll go to find those. I only have one, so I'm not going to be focusing on it. Just have that one so I can use it as an example to show you the best item for strength training. You'll need it for, or you'll want it for higher level strength training. The easy thing to come by, or my favorite thing to use, are iron clubs. I have just a basic weaponsmith here, and I have leveled up my weaponsmithing through research, and as you can see, I don't have advanced yet, but what I have done is I've leveled up weaponsmithing as high as you can using just regular books, the ones you can buy from a store. Nothing too spectacular. And if you look in weaponsmithing, I had the option to make the up to the refitted blade version right here, but actually what I'm making are the Katten level, or Katten number 1s, because you can make, if your skill's high enough, you can make a little bit higher than what it is you define in here. As you can see, I've made lots of these iron clubs, Katten level 1s, and they are 10 kilograms each, and I think they take 7. They're 7 wide, so it's a little more than 1 kilogram per individual square. Far less than those generator cores, but it's good enough, and I'll show you some tricks for getting more weight when you need it. Finally, the third thing we need are opponents. Opponents are usually easy to find. There should be plenty out here in the desert. If I were to be fighting people in the desert, I would probably choose Guru. You can usually find a pack of Guru wandering around somewhere in the desert. What do those look like? People. But anyway, we're not going to be using Guru for this tutorial, just because I want to be able to make things quick for you. Instead, we'll be using a few prisoners I've gotten. Some slave hunters made the mistake of getting into a scrap with a caravan or samurai or something, I don't remember, and I've put 4 of them here, and one of them's still injured, so we'll start with these 3 guys, and these are basically going to be our punching bags. But before we do that, before we get into the strength side of it, let's take a look at Vashu in peace. You see their melee attack is 0 and 8. Not very good. So I've made a couple of training dummies up here for the 2 of them. So let's put them to training, and once they've gotten up to around 12 or 13, we're gonna let them go have a good time with those prisoners we have over there. So gonna send these guys up to train, and I'll be back with you once they're a little better at regular fighting. Okay, so these 2 have been training their melee up a bit, and let's take a look at where they're at. This guy is a little over 13, and this one is about 12 and a half, so they're almost the same in that regard now. And so if they ever decide to pick up a weapon that they don't know how to use, they should be able to swing it at least and hit at least a little bit. Let's bring them down here and prepare them for their training. First things first, just to put them on even ground, let's strip them both down completely. Let's get rid of everything they have. Stick it in this this chest I have right here, so that, you know, a few days I'll look at it and wonder what the heck I'm doing with all this complete junk. And I've already made, with my leather crafting bench here, I've made them some fairly decent leather gear that they can each wear. All specialist quality, and should let them be fairly mobile when they fight, while at the same time protecting them from a good bit of damage. Also, let me make sure that everybody in the group is passive and on block, and the only exceptions will be these two guys. Let's take it off of them. I just wanted to make sure that these three aren't joining in the fight unnecessarily. It doesn't mean none of them will be present. I'm going to take Izumi and bring Izumi as our designated healer and mule. So, weight is an important factor to leveling up strength, and we're going to make sure that there's plenty of weight around that we can give them as their strength increases. Iron clubs are a very easy way to generate weight for low strengths. They're easy to make without using any kind of special ancient science books or anything. You can get up to cat number 1 pretty easily, which are 10 kilograms a piece. They're only 7 squares wide, so it's more than 1 kilogram per square. But towards the high end, you're going to want something extremely heavy, and for that I recommend generator cores. I bought that generator core from the machinist shop here in Shobutai. They rarely have them in machinist shops. You can't buy them anywhere else to my knowledge. However, you can find a lot of them wherever there's ancient machinery around, particularly any place where you can find artifacts. So your ruins and your workshops, places like that that you go raiding for research materials, are a good place to find generator cores. Next, let's go ahead and take these three and bring them over to our opponents. They're going to be coming over here. Let's open the door up. Make sure they're going to the upper level. Izumi's going to be nice and slow. And once Izumi gets indoors, I'm going to go ahead and shut this door again, because we don't want any of our opponents here escaping, because they will try to run. So when the door is shut, they don't see a path to run, and they'll usually stick around. And that's what we want to happen. Now, before we actually start, we want to make sure we have the weight on these correctly. So you see Vashu is again our weak person with a 0 strength, and Peace has a strength of 8. And you probably know, if you hover right here, you can see your strength XP rate, 0% and 0%. That means if these people are just walking around, running around, they're not going to gain any strength. The more weight you give them, the higher that goes, and it will max out at 25% whenever you get to 72% encumbrance or higher. You might also know that if you open up the statistics menu for any of your people, there are 2 strength XP rates. You have the walking rate, which is the one we were just looking at, and you also have the combat rate, which you see is different. It's at 100%. Now, I wish I could explain this combat rate to you, but I can't, because when it's at 100%, you actually gain strength extremely slowly. What we're going to do is we're going to weigh one of them down and not weigh the other one down, just so you can see the difference. And what we'll do is we'll weigh Vashu down until he gets up to strength 8, and at that time Peace should also still be at strength 8. As you give them more weight, this strength XP rate actually goes down. However, they gain strength more quickly. So again, that's why I said I can't explain this, because it doesn't really seem to make any sense to me. What you really want to pay attention to, in my experience, is your strength XP rate for walking, even if what you plan to do is gain strength through combat. If you want to gain strength through walking, just weigh somebody down above 72% of their total encumbrance. It should say heavy whenever you're doing that, and 25% down here, and give them a job that involves them walking around a lot. However, that is a very slow way to level up strength. Fighting with martial arts is much faster. Okay, we're going to tell Vashu to trade with Izumi here and get a little bit of weight. We don't want them using weapons, so make sure they're in the inventory slot. And your weight doesn't update until time runs. So there we go, we have heavy. And for Vashu, that means strength XP rate of 21, needs a little bit more weight. 25, there we go. You don't want to weigh him down too much, because any additional weight you add beyond this is not going to increase the strength XP rate, but it will slow him down some. So we have weak Vashu with a high strength XP rate, but you notice the combat rate has actually gone down from 100 to 28%. So again, we're just going to ignore that combat rate because it doesn't seem to work as you might think. Peace, on the other hand, already has an 8 strength, and we're going to leave Peace relatively unencumbered, weightless. So Uzumi is on passive and block, just a watcher, and is here to provide clubs to anyone who needs additional weight, and also to provide healing. You might wonder, well, why don't you just have a chest full of clubs right here? If you know you're going to be training on top of a roof like this, that's the way to go. I'm using my healer, my nearby healer and backup fighter, as a mule, because I think most of the time you will, or maybe you don't, but I do most of the time, end up fighting somewhere out here. Like I said before, I like to fight the Guru, but it doesn't matter where your base is, there should be enemies nearby, and you may not be able to build a chest out in the open. So that's why we're using Uzumi as a mule. We have Vashu weighted down and Peace unencumbered. Let's send them both over here to fight, and we're going to let them fight the weakest of these 4 first. We have a 12 strength person there, 9, 13, and this person's still hurt. We're not going to use that person yet. We actually do want our person to survive as long as possible, so we're going to use this slave hunter right here. Let's bring our people over. Okay, Zumi's backed off, that's good, and then let's free the person and start the fight. Okay, time for some martial arts. I probably should have put some armor on the bad guy right here, just so they live longer. Our goal is to hit and not necessarily do damage. We just want them to hit. With martial arts, each swing is going to increase the strength some, and they've both been swinging a good bit now. So let's pause and just see what the strength progression looks like. So Peace already had the 8 strength, and as you can see, it has not gone up despite that combat rate of 100%. So again, we're ignoring the combat rate and just looking at walking. Vashu, on the other hand, has gone up to a 2 strength from a 0, and has an almost 25% XP rate. Strength's gone up, so he's not as weighted down, and has a 31% combat rate. So again, combat rate, who knows what it actually does. So normally I'm not this detailed about how I level these guys up, but he's down to 23%, needs a little bit more weight, so I'm going to send Izumi in to give him a couple more clubs. That should keep him weighed down a little longer. Again, no weapons. And let's get Izumi out of the way and let them continue. Speed it up a little bit. And let's watch Vashu's weight. Or, sorry, Vashu's strength. Alright, just got to 8. So we have Vashu with 8 strength, Peace with 8 strength. They're about the same. So now that they're the same, let's go ahead and weigh down Peace some as well. Vashu also needs some more weight. So we'll just split all the clubs that Izumi and Vashu have between the two of them evenly. Vashu currently has 6, so let's get 6 to Peace and see how many we have left over. Alright, let's give the other 4 to Vashu. And one of them has one more than the other, but that's fine. And we're going to make sure that they're not using them as weapons because, as I may have mentioned earlier, martial arts seems to increase your strength faster than fighting with a weapon. And we'll just let them go until the fight ends. They're not taking too much damage, which is good. Let's look at the slave hunter, also not taking too much damage. And this is on full speed. So we should see some pretty nice returns out of this first fight. Alright, so they're done with the fight, it looks like. I don't think they knocked them down, I think they knocked them out. So let's go ahead and pick this person up, put him away, and see how well our strength's leveled up. So we have Vashu here, who now has a strength of 30, and Peace with a strength of 30. They're a little bit injured, we'll have to let them rest. See their left arms here have been hurt. That's primarily from punching somebody else and possibly from blocking. No, not blocking. So it's basically just from them punching. But as they level up, the amount of damage they do to themselves by punching will go down. As you can see, they also got a little bit of dex and toughness, but that's not really our goal right now to level up. It's just a nice little extra. And dodge and martial arts went up just a tad on each of them as well. So let's take a look at how encumbered they are. 14% and 17%, which means if we're going to run them through another fight, we're going to need to make sure they have more weight. So a few things we're going to do before the next fight. We're going to put these two guys to bed so they can heal up to full. We're going to get some armor for their next opponent. That way that person will live longer and they'll have more time to gain strength. And and you might be wondering, well, if Vashu, for instance, has a strength of 30, and it's red right now because they're injured, but has a strength of 30, and you see only 17% XP rate. How are you going to get more weight without giving them weapons? What we're going to do is put backpacks on them, and we'll want 2 backpacks per person. One backpack that they actually wear and keep stuff in. Now, a backpack is going to reduce the amount of weight of the items that are carried in it, or at least how much they encumber you, so long as you're wearing it. So if you have a backpack that reduces the encumbrance by 50%, all of these are going to weigh half as much towards encumbrance while you're wearing it. However, if you fill a backpack and then you move it to your inventory, then that backpack will weigh the full amount. It won't get any kind of bonus. So even though we just have these iron clubs, we don't have any of the generator cores or anything like that, we could still get a whole lot of weight into a single person's inventory just by using 2 backpacks. So I'm going to let these guys go rest. Going to get one of these guys armored up and make sure there's plenty of weight for both of these guys. And then we'll see how far we can get on fight number 2. Okay, we're ready to go again. As I said, we armored up the person they'll be fighting now, so that person will last longer. That's important because I only have so many people, and the more hits the better. Also, they each have 30 strength, so they're going to be doing more damage now. We also let them heal up, as you can see. They're more or less full health. I'm not sure why it's showing 99 on some of those, but anyway, they're full health. And if we look at their strength XP rates, they're both up to 25%. We got them there by giving them backpacks, 2 backpacks each. This backpack is completely full of these iron clubs, and you see this one's only partially full. Same situation here. He has a full backpack and some in his inventory and partial there. Let's get this out of there. So there's still space for more. We just don't want to slow them down too much right now. So if after this next fight they aren't as encumbered as we'd like, we can get Izumi to toss some more into their inventories. And unfortunately, we only had these pretty crappy wooden backpacks available, wooden backpack and small backpack available over here in this shop. But I'm sure you know there are much larger backpacks than both of these that you can use to go further. So without further ado, let's make sure the door is shut. It is shut and locked, and let's start this next fight to see how far they go with 30 strength each. Attack unprovoked, and there we go. Now, if you're very limited on the number of opponents you have available to you and you don't want to go outside the walls for whatever reason, you can pause in the middle of the combat to make sure that they have the best XP rate, but I like to just let them go until they stop. Now, for some reason, fighting captives, they'll just stop when the captive gets to almost down, because you see the person's not quite down, but they're really close, so you might have to tell them to keep on going at it until you finally actually knock the person out like this. Once the person's knocked out, you can pick them up and put them back where they belong. There we go. And let's see how well they did. We're at 40 strength with Vashu now, and 41 strength with Peace. The difference is, well, let's take a look. A little more than 40 and a half, 41 and a half, and just barely over 40. It probably came down to one of them getting more hits than the other, either because of position or luck or something like that. So you can see after just 2 fights, these guys are already up to 40 strength. You can easily use this method to get them up to 80 strength or more. And the way you do that, again, is just get bigger backpacks and more full backpacks that you can weigh it down even more and more. And if you get to the point where iron clubs aren't cutting it, take a look and see if you can't find things with more weight per square. Higher level iron clubs are great. They continue to get heavier and heavier as you go higher end. I think edge clubs get up to around 19 kilograms per, which is really good, almost as good as a generator core. And of course, generator cores are great if you have them. It does not take long at all to get to 60 plus strength, maybe 2 or 3 more fights and we'd be there. And it's really not that hard to get to 80 either. Once they get that really high strength, they can start taking out pretty strong things, especially if their martial arts starts to level up. Once the martial arts starts to get around in the 30s or so, you'll see them be able to take out significantly stronger opponents. It's not unheard of at all for a pair of martial artists like this to take out some of the strongest creatures out there. In fact, I have a game with 3 martial artists who have, I think, roughly 70 or 80 strength or so. Their martial arts and dodge are both in the mid-60s, and just 3 of them by themselves can take out a Leviathan using no weapons at all. So martial arts is good, but this isn't a martial arts tutorial, it's a strength tutorial. And as you see, 2 fights got these guys essentially from one of the guys, I got him from 0 to 40, the other guy from 8 to 41. But keep in mind, the 8 to 41 guy, he started out unencumbered as an example, so he could have been a little bit higher as well. So I hope that helps you. I'm not going to take it any further. I think you believe me at this point that the strength could continue to go up, and you know how to do it. So strength is by far the easiest attribute to level out of all of these. The next easiest one is toughness, and then despite this dexterity showing 11, you might think, hey, your toughness only went up a little, but your dexterity went up more. Maybe it's easier. Well, here they're about the same, but that's not the case. You'll find that toughness is as simple as taking damage, but dexterity is by far the hardest one of the attributes to level. So go out, get strong, and punch people in the face. Let me know if you have any requests. Please like and subscribe, And if you want to, comment as well. My sound wasn't too great on the last one, so hopefully it was a little better this time around. You were able to understand me and hear me well. And that's all for now, so thanks for watching BLUF Gaming.